Well, welcome to another edition of Debt Matters Podcast, where we do help Canadians find solutions to their debt with licensed insolvency trustees from across Canada. I'm Wayne Kay. Today's show, we're going to be talking about the rising costs of home ownership and rent increases and how that can affect debt. Joining me, I've got Derek Chase from Derek Chase & Associates in Campbell River, BC. Derek, thanks very much for being here today.
Hi, Wayne. It's great to be here. Look forward to talking with you again today.
Oh, when we talk about rising costs of home ownership, everybody's talking about how much it's costing these days and what's happened in that housing world. What's going on?
You know, that's a big question, a worldwide question. But locally, we're certainly seeing the effects of that in the amount of money people are paying for rent. And it is a real social problem. It's really hurting people that are on fixed income, and it's causing a lot of grief with debt because people are having to go into their credit cards and go into their line of credit just to meet the monthly living expenses. And, you know, it's a problem. And we're currently in an election right now, and I hope it keeps getting talked about because it's not easy out there.
No, and as you mentioned, they're dipping into grabbing money, adding debt every month just to live. And how do you even think about repaying it when you're in that situation?
Very difficult. You know, you're just, I think you're just hoping for the best and trying to make it to the next month and, you know, hoping that something's going to change in the future. But, you know, historically looking back, we always had a benchmark that if you're spending a third of your take-home pay on your housing, that's okay. You know, that's what it's going to be, and you can deal with the rest of your life with the other 2/3 of your take-home pay. But now we see settings where people are often well over 50% of their take-home pay going to rent and cost of housing, and that's tough. That's not easy to make the rest of the life work because you've got to take from other areas of the budget, and unfortunately, that often pushes people into that credit card cycle or payday loan cycle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then that's just a terrible place to be because, well, as we've mentioned before, those interest rates, as soon as that starts, you can go downhill very quickly when it comes to that debt problem.
For sure. The amount of interest on a credit card or a payday loan is just huge. And unfortunately, once you start to get into that setting where you can't pay off your credit card in full, or you're visiting the payday loan each month, then you're on a downhill trend, which we talk about it as having a negative momentum with your finances. And so you would need something to stop that negative momentum. And I think really what the first place a person should do there is get serious about understanding what they're paying for things, because in addition to the rent increases, you know, just general inflation over the last even over the last year has jumped other costs of living up quite a bit. So if you're currently operating and you don't know what you're spending on different things each month, you know, pull out a pen and paper and get down to business and write those things down, because it's literally a battle to try and keep your expenses down at this day and age.
Mm-hmm. And I love the pen and paper thing. You know, we don't have to get complicated. We always try apps, and I know there are apps out there, but when you actually physically write it down, everything you spend makes a big difference. Now, I'm very fortunate because my wife, she notices everything. So I'll get home and she'll say, "Oh, you had coffee today." She notices every penny, which is a good thing.
Yeah, you're a lucky man, Wayne. But, you know, I would agree that pen and paper is all you need. You could go for an app. Your bank has usually something pretty good on their online platform. Excel spreadsheet or some other type of spreadsheet, that works very well. There's a lot of different ways, and that's good because we're all wired a little different. You know, I can't keep a hold of receipts for a month and then add them up. I just can't do it. And I've tried some different ways because we like to talk about different ways of keeping track of expenses. And for me, it's a spreadsheet just because it adds it for me. I don't have to do the adding.
Right.
And, it's easy to plug in every day, because if you don't, then it's just impossible to remember what you've spent for a month.
It is surprising sometimes when you look at numbers, and I love watching different financial shows and debt shows. And And I'm always amazed at the number of people that have no idea how much money that they are actually spending.
It's true. And I think that's for the majority of people. And surprisingly, maybe more so when a person's income is a little higher because they're just so used to having that fresh income each month to pay it down. But there can sometimes be tremendous opportunity within a person's expenses to change their finances. And it's kind of fun when people do that and they say, oh my gosh, I'm spending $400 a month eating lunch every day. And, it's pretty easy to change that number. So there can be some opportunity within financially for your household just by doing a deep dive into your expenses and truly trying to understand that.
It's funny you mentioned the tracking lunches, because we were tracking. We did the whole thing with writing it on pen and paper, and at one point in 1 month we spent over $300 on lunches, and we were like, "Wow!" We had no idea that we were spending that much. And then, of course, the next couple of months we said, "Well, we're not going to spend any money on lunches."
But don't get me wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going out for lunch. It's one of life's pleasures, but you just really need to understand and agree as to how much you want to spend on that area. It's no different than, are 2 $5 cups of coffee really necessary every day? Probably not. But having a coffee is great. I mean, it's part of life.
But we did it as a game. We were like, okay, let's see if we can do this. And we made it a challenge with each other and said, hey, can we cut this back? And so it did become, we had to become aware of it first off, and then we had to make a change. And now we're back to going out for lunches once in a while, but not literally like we were. And I think a lot of people, that are in these financial situations, once they realize how much debt they have and how much that's accruing every month, you do have to almost make it a game to say, okay, we're going to tackle debt. Because if you make it this painful, miserable, I can't ever do anything, you just finally get to that point where you just say, heck with it, let's go spend some money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think I for sure. And I think one of the words you use there, which I think is really good, is awareness. And if you are unaware of your monthly expenses, it's almost like trying to find something in the dark. You kind of know what's happening, but you don't really know for sure. If you're walking around in the dark, you might bump your knee or make a wrong decision. And in contrast, once you have all that information in front of you, it's like a clear day. It's very easy to see what's going on, and you can make some better, quicker decisions.
Do you have some suggestions on what you can do to reduce your housing costs?
Housing cost reduction is something that people are exploring more and more, I think. And probably the easiest one is for a person that has room, is to consider taking on a roommate. And that's a little tricky because you want to have the right roommate. You want to feel comfortable and safe and whatnot. But certainly having someone to share that housing can make a dramatic difference, literally cutting it in half. So that's probably the biggest one. Certainly keeping your eye open for and letting your network know that you might be looking for different housing options is good as well, because there are housing options that can come with utilities included, which is huge, versus you have to pay utilities that in addition to your cost of housing. So shopping for that and letting your network know that you're looking at is a good thing. Those are probably two of the more powerful ways for housing cost reductions. We see, unfortunately, seniors on fixed income that are getting hurt badly with rental increases, and they might want to also explore whether they can get on a list for seniors housing, which is often subsidized. There's also a really good program in BC called Safer, which we let people know of. And that's a provincial program that will potentially give you some money towards your rent. Shelter aid for elderly residents, or Safer. So that's something that some people have been unaware of. And, getting an extra $200 or $250 or whatever the number turns out to be towards your rent can be the difference between running a deficit every month and being able to run a positive monthly budget.
Absolutely. So with these high rents that you're talking about, so some people get the high rent and their debt's going up. What's maybe their first step? What do they do to stop this or fix this?
Well, once you've gotten the information in front of you and you can see that your monthly budget just isn't working with the amount of debt repayment that you might have to make on your unsecured debt, it's important, I think, to reach out to get some information on how you might stop that negative momentum on the debt. And there's a variety of options that are available for that. What we do at our office and what any trustee will do across the country is take the time to get to know what's happening in your finances. And then at our office, we'll take as much time as you want to just walk through each of the different options that are available for stopping that negative momentum. It could be as simple as just applying for a consolidation loan at where you're banking at, your local bank or credit union. If that's not available, if a person doesn't qualify for that, then there are some more powerful tools available, such as a consumer proposal or even a federal bankruptcy filing.
So a few different options. And as we mentioned, there's always a first free consultation with Derek and his team at Derek Chase and Associates. And you can go to bankruptcytrustee.bc.ca to get more information or to schedule that. We've been talking about how hard it is to find housing sometimes for people as well, and to find, rents are going up, and there's rentals just aren't like they used to be. I remember 20 years ago renting a place. I got a whole house for $550 in BC, which is crazy. And then I got an acreage for $700. And now you get like one basement suite for $1,400. I've heard that a lot of this might have to do with Airbnbs. People would rather just rent for a day or two as opposed to renting to people long term.
That's true. I think that Airbnbs have been a cause of taking rental supply out of the general market and being able as a property owner to recover as much or perhaps more than they could have if it was just a straight monthly rental is often attractive to the homeowner. So I'm not aware of the specific numbers as to what that might be, but I'm sure that there's a good chunk of the rental housing market that is gone towards strictly Airbnb.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what's going to happen. It was somebody brought that to my attention, and I thought, wow, yeah, that would make sense on why rentals are so hard to come by for so many people. And I even have some friends who have a couple of different houses. Just a guy I was bike riding with the other day, and he said, I've got 2 rentals in 2 different cities. And I said, well, you looking for a family? What are you looking for? And he said, no, Airbnb. That would explain where the rentals are going.
Definitely a factor. And, the answer is really more supply. And I've often thought that the quickest way that supply could come on stream is if municipal governments allowed more basement suites or carriage homes or more that's already there that doesn't need to wait for 3 years to get built. Yeah,
that's very, very good point. Final words of advice here, Derek. What's your suggestions?
Yeah, I think if your cost of your housing is greater than 50% of your income and you're carrying unsecured debt, I can just only imagine that you're really feeling a cash flow pinch there. So I would say take advantage of the free consultations that trustees generally provide and just make sure you understand all the information and options that are available, because the law is there. That's federal law, and it's set by Parliament, and it's available to try and to help you when you're in a predicament.
Great advice. Derek, thank you very much for the info today.
More than welcome, Wayne. Hope you have a great day.
Well, thanks again to my guest today, Derek Chase. And once again, free consultation from Derek or his team at bankruptcytrustee.bc.ca. If you do have any questions, please reach out to him. And that's it for our Debt Matters podcast for today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcast from. And of course, for more information, you can always check out debtmatters.ca. Thanks very much for listening.